thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Oh, great to be here and good to connect at TCT.
Always. And I think you and I go back at least 20, 25 years together.
Absolutely.
I've been on a journey along the way, but now with Akura Medical, one of the Shifamed companies. Share with the audience a little bit about Akura.
Yeah, Akura is in the mechanical thrombectomy space. As per CDC, over 900,000 people every year are diagnosed with venous thromboembolism. We are one of the recent entrants in the rapidly growing mechanical thrombectomy space, and we have a differentiated solution to deal with this challenge, and we can talk about it later, but I believe that we have something that is really differentiated from what is available today.
Yeah, and I want to dig into it a bit because classic Shifamed thesis is find a big market, it's validated, don't create a market, see what existing platinum standard looks like, fast follow, and outperform, out-benefit in such a way that nobody else will try and do that after you get into the market.
Absolutely.
So with that, where does Akura shine in that area?
Right. We conducted some market research, and what we found out were that there were three unmet clinical needs, right? The first need was to clear all types of clots and not without having to clog the catheter. The second need was to have the catheter get to the site where it needs to perform its action. And the third for the physician is intraoperative guidance. So how does Akura address these needs? So in order to break up the clots, we aspirate the clot, but we also have high velocity jets that break up the clots into small pieces and remove them. So that way the catheter does not get clogged. We have a low profile bidirectional steerable sheath that can be delivered over a soft wire to the target location in the target vessel. And lastly, to help with intraoperative guidance, we are able to shoot contrast through the system at any time. We provide continuous pressure monitoring through the sheath. And then we have a console that has a rich display that indicates key parameters for the physician to follow. So together, these feature sets, I believe, one, are differentiated enough and are designed to make the procedure very safe and effective for the physician. Again, this is the design of the product. We are working with the FDA on various approvals, and that'll have to be proven out over time. But from a system design, those have been the design goals.
So those are the features that are Shifamed-like in order
Correct.
to take advantage of what's not in the market right now.
Exactly.
So where do you sit right now in the clinical pathway with the FDA and the market?
So last year we conducted our first in human in the Republic of Georgia. We treated 5 patients with our technology. Results were published at the late breaker at the Veins conference last year. We were also selected for the TCT Shark Tank, and I presented last year, so that was a great experience. This year we focused on expanding our clinical footprint, if you will. We opened up sites in Brazil, 2 sites in Brazil and 1 in Dominican Republic. We have conducted 15 patients so far, so a total experience of 20 patients since the inception of the company. The results have been very good, and we will share them at an appropriate time in a suitable clinical meeting. And so that's kind of where we are right now. We will continue with our clinical work in Brazil and Dominican Republic. And then we are also working with the FDA on an IDE for treating patients with pulmonary embolism. So that discussion is ongoing with the FDA. And as soon as we get the go ahead, we will start the US study. And one thing we've been very pleasantly surprised by, but also we kind of expected it. Since the system is fairly intuitive and you get rich intraoperative feedback, almost 40% of our cases this year have been remote cases, meaning there was no in-case support. We were able to provide support via Zoom remotely. And this to me is important because these cases are not predictable. We don't know when a patient is going to show up. You don't have the luxury of time to get the most appropriate physician and the clinical team. And so this capability, I believe, again, to be tested over time, but will be really helpful for this whole industry to gain further steam and to make progress.
So that's really interesting because you've heard about the moonshot of the remote sort of neuro stroke of the original intention of Corindus, whether or not that sees the light of day, but you see Sentante and you see Imperative and some of the others building that robotic solution to potentially have that hub and spoke. But it's really interesting to hear that there may be, I'm saying it, you're not saying it for FDA reasons, that Akura is setting itself up to create an intermediary step where you can bring up the competency of the operator and maybe, given that magic window, be able to take advantage of it because of the capabilities of the system.
Right, and again, that we need to see more and more clinical evidence, but one of the things we're not sure of is, is waiting up to say 24 hours, does that still produce optimum results? Would a faster treatment improve results? Would treatment within 4 hours, it need not be like a door to balloon time, but treatment within 6 hours, do they produce better results in a certain type of patient? We need to do more studies, but I think having built an intuitive system, a single use and a single pass system like we have, I think will help, and more studies will have to be conducted to determine the value in clinical use.
So it sounds like the system has the ability, well, it does, in order to give that pseudo insights. I don't want to use the word advisement for regulatory reasons, but pseudo insights, that sounds like you're collecting very actionable data that maybe downrange may really provide valuable insights eventually to a clinician.
Right. I mean, I think providing the continuous monitoring of pressure and patient hemodynamics instinctively seems to be useful. Again, we will need to validate that and prove it, but these are some of the things that over time, as these procedures become easier, predictable, will also increase adoption. From what I understand, only 1 in 5 patients in the US are treated with mechanical thrombectomy. Even though the market is growing at 20+% every year, it's still not addressing 4 out of 5 patients. And more data, more experience, better tools, I believe will only increase adoption over time.
Yeah, and I do love to see that use of data for advisement and not need a so-called full-blown endovascular robot in the chain in order to pick up the best of. So that's fascinating. So take me through what it means to be a Shifamed company, because it's I think you've got 6 companies in clinicals right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
In complex clinicals, and there's a great mind share of leaders in there, whether it's C-suite, VP level. What Amr and the team have done there, as somebody who's now insinuated into that system, tell me about it.
So this is my 3rd startup and my first experience with the Shifamed ecosystem. One has obviously heard of Shifamed and Amr over the years. I live 6 miles from the Shifamed headquarters, so there's no escaping Shifamed, right? And what they have done, I think, is truly wonderful. They built a very strong ecosystem. Fundraising is also made relatively easy. Fundraising is never easy, but it's a lot easier when the investors are investing across companies with a well-known entity like Shifamed. The back office operations, which are always the bane of any startup company, are handled, right? IT, intellectual property, HR, finance, accounting. Just to give you an example, for my second startup, we ordered furniture from Costco. My wife and I pushed it, wheeled it into the office, and I had to sign a personal lease for the office, and I paid my son $15 to assemble every chair. I don't need to do that at Shifamed, right? Everything shows up on day one. So that back office functionality is critical. And you touched upon this, the ecosystem is just phenomenal, where we have access to Shifamed senior staff. I have access to my co-CEOs of the various companies. We're all in slightly different stages. So for example, we benefited with the work done by a sister company in signing contracts in Brazil. They will benefit when we go to a country where they may not have relationships. So this sharing of ecosystems, this sharing of KOLs, the sharing of investment arms of various entities, all of this I think contribute to the success, because I don't think of ourselves as Akura alone. I think of myself as a member of the Shifamed family. If I need expertise on nitinol management, I have different companies using nitinol in their product. I can go use their labs, or I can take their advice. Same with suppliers. If we have a very good relationship with a CRO, as a supplier of some other component, then we share that knowledge. And I think that is critical, because that ecosystem, at least with the earlier startups, yes, there are people that can give you just advice, but do they give me access to CNC machines? Do they give me access to clinical sites, clinical agreements? If one of us negotiates a clinical trial agreement, the others can leverage that information. Now, clearly you'll adapt it to your needs, but I don't have to go with first principles and discuss the whole thing all over again. So to me, that is a critical and decisive advantage when you're operating as a Shifamed company as compared to other companies.
What's also interesting, because I've had the privilege to be able to work closely with a lot of the Shifamed companies, is the very high level, the bar set to be a member of a Shifamed company is very high. And I've been part of 900 startups, being a part of building. And I will tell you, the organizations that set that non-negotiable bar, personality, intelligence, collaborative nature, in the office 5 days a week. I can't believe I have to say that in today's day and age, but that, you compound that over days, weeks, months, and years, it makes the divergence downrange creates all the difference in the world.
Right, my entire team is right there in the office. We have a vertically integrated manufacturing facility. We make the consoles, we make the catheters, the disposables. We have a laser cutting machine for nitinol manufacturing. We do it all right there. And also having an in-office culture, everybody is accessible within a 30-second walk, right? It's a 22,000 square foot facility. You can go from one corner to another corner within 30 seconds. And then you have all the other Shifamed companies, the 8 companies on campus, and to get to the farthest one takes 2 minutes.
I was there, JP Morgan last year, and Amr personally took me around to each one, and I was like, wait a second, I'm a shitty golf player, but I could have hit a pitching wedge to any of them, right? And they're all close, but they're all their own entity as well.
Correct.
Yeah, and I can't believe in 2024 that I have to say it's a benefit to go to a work at a company where leadership wants you there 5 days a week and the team wants to be there 5 days a week, but that's a benefit.
Right, and we were just discussing it with some colleagues earlier this morning. You can have all the planned meetings you want. In my mind, only 40% of the work gets done in those planned meetings. It's that, hallway
the unintended
conversation.
collisions.
Right, that's where other things get done. You can walk across to somebody, hey, what do you think of this?
Yeah.
If I have to set up a Zoom meeting with that person and then look at their calendar, my calendar, I might even forego the need to have that discussion.
great
And
point.
then we'll wonder why one part of the team is turning right and the other part of the team is turning left because they didn't talk to each other.
Yeah. I think for now on in my position descriptions for my clients, I'm going to start out with 5 days a week in the office. It's a benefit, right? For the right people. So, as we close up, where are we with Akura over the next 12, 24 months? What should the market be watching for?
Right, so as I mentioned earlier, we are working with the FDA on the IDE study. So that will be the first goal that we'd like to hit. It's active discussions, so we will see where that goes. Number two, continued clinical work across Brazil, Dominican Republic, and also some other sites in Europe. Number three is 510K. We're going to start that once we get the IDE approved, and then we start enrolling at sites. And then last but not the least is product expansion into different areas, disease states, right? Obviously, PE and DVT are the obvious ones, but physicians have reacted very positively to the way the system has been designed and have suggested extensions into adjacent areas. The beauty of it is that the console that we have will cover all of them, but we might have to right size or fine tune the catheters and the disposable products, which we can do.
But the mechanism of
right,
action remains.
so that you can then expand into these adjacent areas and add value to the site, and eventually this is all about the patient, right? Adding value to the patient across different disease states, and also making it very easy for the physician to use your system because they're familiar and the mechanism of action is known, plus minus, and and they can continue to use it. And so those will be the goals for the next 18 to 24 months, including eventually getting a PE indication and then commercially launching the product.
Well, your hands are full for sure on the next 12 to 18.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
appreciate you taking the time today.
Thank you. Really great to catch up with you as always, and look forward to seeing you at the next meeting.
Got it. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
I'm Joe Mullings from the floor of TCT 2024. Be well.